Hello and welcome. Welcome and thank you for coming to Microsoft's PDC this year. And I very much want to thank you for coming to this particular session. Your passion and excitement around Team System 2010 feeds this team in ways I can't explain, and it's fantastic to see you all here right now. You know, as I come out of that keynote, when we heard Ray and Bob Muglia talk about software plus services and cloud computing in general, you can't help but feel like we're on the cusp of this new wave of innovation with all kinds of new capabilities that will bring to this marketplace. And at the same time, I can't help but think as a developer, you know, what are the new challenges that this new frontier is going to bring to software development? Because let's face it, software development is fantastic when we start thinking about this on the cloud, but software development down here in old terra firma is still a little bit messy. My name's Cameron Skinner. I'm a product unit manager on the Team System team, responsible for bringing one of the products that makes up the Team System to you. This entire environment, all of this going on right now takes me back to the year 2001, right here in LA at the PDC in that year, when I was sitting right there as an ISV developer. And at that time, if you remember, Microsoft had just rolled out .NET and the .NET framework. And I was here trying to get my head around .NET and what .NET is going to do for me as a developer and for my company. And if you recall, everything was .NET. There were .NET services, .NET platforms, .NET servers, .NET toothbrushes, .NET diapers, everything was .NET. And so I was here just to get my head around it and try to understand what it really was. What is it about the .NET framework and the capabilities, those brand new capabilities there, that were going to impact me as a developer? And so I was sitting there in that chair, looking up here at the speaker, and it clicked for me. That speaker, and I really wish I could remember who that was. It was me. It was probably Doug. I don't think it was. That speaker was able to talk about the .NET framework and ground my understanding by showing demonstrations of all the capabilities and how I can, as a developer, leverage it and use those new capabilities. I came out of that presentation understanding what I needed to do and what I should tell my company going back after the PDC. And that's what I really want to do for you today. But the technology today that I'm talking about is not the .NET framework. It's technology built upon that framework, and that technology is called Visual Studio Team System 2010. I want to talk about what Team System 2010 is going to do for you as developers and what that will mean to you and your business. Okay, without further ado, let me show you what we have in store for you here. I've got a couple more minutes of chatter before we dive deep into the new bits. So I want to spend a majority of the time out of PowerPoint and in the bits. The 2010 bits, that is. By the way, feel free to just completely interrupt me with applause at any time. That's totally fine. Now, at the end, at the top of the hour, we are going to have some Q&A. We've got some mics set up here, and we can get, hopefully, a good question and answer period going on here. Okay? So let me just finish up with the chatter and describe to you, if my clicker will work here. Team System 2010 is a very, very big release. It's a release, when I say it's big, I don't really necessarily mean that it's big in regards to all the resources and all the energy that we've poured into it, which, by the way, is significant. We've got over 400 men and women pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. But when I say that this product is big, I'm really referring to how much feedback we've received from you folks from the 2005, 2008 products and the current CTB bits, and all that feedback coming in, and then what we have been able to do with that feedback, pour it back into the system. That's why this product is big. We've taken that feedback and we have poured enormous amounts of functionality throughout the entire suite, in every box, including the developer box, tool set that you all are using every day. But we've also heard from that feedback that we need to invest more in the test and the architecture areas of the product. And we've poured a lot of energy in those areas. And I'm going to show you a few of those today, but we're going to spend more time on talking about tools for you. But I do want to make sure that you understand there's major investments in that test and architecture space. Things like, for instance, in Team Foundation Server, you have test case management built into the server. You have the ability to do test planning and test execution in dedicated environments. You have UML diagrams built into the product as an integral part of the product, and so on. Okay? But why should you, the developer, care about all these new investments? It's happiness. Your happiness. You are the reason why we've made all these investments. Your happiness and how you use these tools is why we've taken all that feedback and poured it into this product. Because we know we're all developers here. I know, you know, that you are most productive when what was hard is now easy. You are happiest when you are productive. You are happy when code that you are working on is maintainable and easily maintained. And perhaps most importantly, you are happy when your team that you are working on is effective each and every day. Now, I really hope this isn't a comprehensive list that describes your happiness, but it's certainly a big piece of what Team System is all about. So with that, enough chatter. I want to introduce a friend of mine, Doug Seven. This is Senior Product Manager of Visual Studio Team System.
I think I just got more applause than you did.
Yeah, that's right. Doug's going to help me. He's going to be my hands while I walk around the stage and try not to move too much. Thanks, Sam. Okay. How many of you developers out there have ever been in a situation where you get a bug from someone, probably a tester on your team or what have you? You look at the title of that bug, which is, in most cases, the most information you're probably going to get. And you basically say, all right, let me go look, and I'm going to try to make this work on myself. Nope. Works fine. Show of applause. This is an area of
it works on my box.
Yeah, works on my box. This is an area we got a lot of feedback, and we poured a lot of time and energy on that particular scenario. Okay, this works on my box. We're trying to fix that problem, and we want to show you what that looks like right now. Let's do it, Doug. What are you doing over here, Doug?
I'm trying to make it work, and it's not. So give me 1 second.
Yeah.
We did the tech check last night, and everything worked fine. And then we turned off the machine. And, there we go.
There we go.
That's why I'm here.
All right. You know what? Hey, Doug, that was an excellent segue. Can you pull that back?
Absolutely.
I want to mention this really quick. All the bits that I'm about to show you are CTP bits that, as of tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we're going to give each and every one of you a hard drive with the VPC that contains these exact bits. You'll be able to take those. You'll be able to put that hard drive in that cool new bag that you've got. It's really awesome. Isn't that fantastic? Now, in addition, we've got a Microsoft VSTS specific Twitter that you can log on to and listen to everyone start to Twitter and twatter out there about VSTS in particular. All right, Doug, let's get into the demo.
Back to where we were.
Yes. All right. So back to the "and works on my box" scenario situation. Doug's the developer. He comes in the morning, fires up Team Explorer on the right there, and goes into work items. He's going to double click on his all active bugs right now. Double clicks. This is the result of that query. Did you double click, Doug?
Sorry, I single clicked.
Yeah. You can't get good help these days.
I'm in marketing. Sorry.
All right. You'll notice at the top of the list, it's a critical Sev1 bug that has your name all over it. This is a very typical situation. And so right away, you come in, you see that, and you go, I just lit half a day on fire. Because now I got to go find out what exactly is going on with this bug in order to get to the point where I can actually go solve the problem. Okay? Go ahead and double click on that, Doug.
Double click?
Double click. Double click. Excellent. Yeah, thank you. What you're seeing here is the new bug template in 2010. It looks fairly similar, but there are a few new enhancements that I want to walk you through. The one on the bottom right-hand corner there, can you scroll that up a little, Doug?
Yeah.
Okay. This is another example of the feedback that we've received from you. This one seems small, but we've received so much feedback that I wanted to call it out. You'll notice how in the comment, in the history text box there, it says, this is a critical bug, and it's bold, it's underlined, and you got the big free, and it's red. You can, we've got rich text editing in the text boxes. And if that was all we had for you, this would be a pretty short talk. But we've got a whole lot more to show you here. Can you scroll over to the left there, Doug?
Yep.
Okay. The Details tab. Have you ever gotten to a situation where you get this defect and you want to go, man, I just wish I could have seen what that tester was doing when they found this problem, right? And I wish I had a little just more information associated with this bug so I can actually jump in there and jump right into the issue. Well, what you see here in the Details tab are the steps, the actual steps that the tester was taking when they found the bug. So can you scroll over? I can't see the green. There we go. Thank you, Doug. You'll see that the first step here, you'll see the green checkbox, little bubble with the check mark in it. That's a good thing. And that's basically saying this first step that the tester took actually worked. Great. So we start to scroll down a little bit. You'll see another one of those steps that was green. And then you scroll down a little farther, and bang, you get the red X with the big red bubble, and that's never good, right? And that is where the tester actually found the defect. Now, remember I was saying, boy, wouldn't it be great to see what exactly the tester was doing when they logged this bug? Well, what you see on the right of the Details panel there is an index into a video that was automatically recorded and attached to this bug when the user logged this issue. What I want to do is I want to show you. So you can imagine if the tester is doing a lot of things, you're getting a big video on the back end. What you see here are indexes into the video. So we're actually going to jump forward. If you want to click on the other one, the 59 seconds there, Doug.
Yeah, just real quick, I don't think, these guys are developers, and I think they're used to like command line stuff. I don't think they're that excited about the video thing. You guys like the video thing? Okay, just checking. It didn't sound very excited.
All right, there we go. All right.
Hold on. You guys, I need some excitement for the video.
Okay.
All right. That's for now. I'll click on the video.
All right. That was fairly cheap, Doug.
I know, I'm cheap.
All right. So when you click on that link, it's going to zap you to the. Can you pause that real quick?
Yeah.
We got some running video here.
If I can.
Doug's going to make it. Oh, you got to hurry.
I'm waiting for my little.
You got to hurry. All right. What this is a video that's associated with that bug. Okay? And what you see on the right side of the video is essentially the application that's under test. And you'll see a bunch of zeros for the menu items here. These meals are all $1, or zero, sorry, are all zero. This is where the defect occurring. The tester's saying, hey, you know, I'm all into giving things away for free, but this is crazy, right? Then on the left-hand side of the screen is a new manual test runner that's in the product. And what this manual test runner is the environment that your tester will actually go into to execute a particular test case. So they'll connect to the Team Foundation server, pull a test case back to this environment, and start to run the steps that make up that test case and test the application. And so as that tester starts to walk through the application and verify that the application is behaving appropriately, they're checking those little boxes, and that's what's giving us the green or the red. Go ahead and let it go. And so what you'll see here as we let the video go, you'll see where the tester finds the bug and says, oh wait, this particular step failed. And I'm going to log this and assign this to a developer. All right, you can kill that there, Doug. Okay. At this point, you've seen, as a developer, you've kind of fought through some of the first stages of grief when you get a bug, right? One of the first phases is just disbelief, like, no, this is working fine, right? I checked in Friday, the thing was working. So I don't even believe you. So we get in there, and now you see a bunch of steps, you see what the tester did, now you got a video that shows you, yeah, your stuff's busted. All right, but hang on. This has happened before. How many times has this happened to you before, where some big pry one, stop the shipping product, blah, blah, blah happens, and it turns out that the tester was running in the wrong build, or they're running on the wrong machine configuration. Has that happened to anyone? Applause? All right. That's what I'm thinking as a developer looking at this. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you got me. You showed me video. Interesting. You're probably running on the wrong machine. Probably have the wrong build. So now let's click on the System Info tab.
Way to inspire trust between devs and tests.
All right, what you see here is when that tester created the bug, we automatically grab the environment specifications of the machine that the tester was running on and jammed it into this bug as well. So you see here all the system information. You'll see, memory that was allocated to the box. You'll see resolution information on the box that the tester was running. You'll even see what build that the tester is using. All right, so at this point in time, the developer pretty much has to believe, okay, I've got a problem, right? At this point, I now believe I've got all the information I need to go and attack this problem. And yet, there's one piece of information that I don't have. How many times have you been in a situation where, okay, you fought through those initial waves of disbelief and no way, couldn't possibly happen. Fought through all that, okay, I admit it, I've got a bug. Wouldn't it be great to understand the state of the application? What was going on with that app on the box that the tester was running at the time they found the defect? Would that be an interesting piece of technology?
That'd be pretty cool.
Anyone ever get into that situation where they're like, what was the state of the machine while it was being tested and when this defect happened? Anyone? Okay.
By the way, this side of the room is a little weak on the other.
It's all right. We'll get going. All right, let's jump into the other links. And here's where you see all of the artifacts that was automatically associated with the bug when the tester created this issue. Okay? You'll notice there's a .png file here. Go ahead and double-click on that, Doug. That's a double.
Double.
And you see a static shot of the application under test to just have yet more evidence that we do have a problem. Go ahead and close that, Doug. You also see, as soon as Doug gets back to the old window.
Really, I'm double-clicking, I'm triple-clicking.
All right, there you go. It's mouse skills. It's all right. You click on the .wmv file, and that's the video that was also associated that I already showed you. Now, you'll notice another interesting one in terms of how it's named. You'll notice the historical debug trace log file. What this particular file is essentially the state of the application captured while that tester was testing the product. Go ahead and double-click on that, Doug. What's going to happen here is a summary window is going to pop up, and it's going to show you threads, etc., that were in the application when we found this defect. Let's go.
It's going.
All right. Okay. Again, this CTP bits, we're going to make this a whole lot better for you. But right away, if you double-click on the main thread, what happens is Visual Studio is put into a debug-like state. You'll notice a new tool window pop up called Debug History. And you'll notice in the history it says there's no historical data available on this particular thread. So right now in the CTP bits, you're going to have to go spelunk a little bit through the threads. But we do know that in thread 2556 is where our problem is. So Doug's double-clicking on that thread, and that will populate the debug history window with essentially a stack, a call stack.
It's going.
Okay? So I want to stop and really point out what's going on here. Visual Studio appears to be debugging an application that is no longer running. It's not on this developer's workstation, and it is no longer running over there on the tester's machine. This was literally the state of that application when the tester found that defect. So this is a really very rich log infrastructure that puts Visual Studio into a debug state so that you can actually go through that application, analyze the call stack, look at local variables, etc., of that past running execution. So go ahead and let's go drill into this call stack a little bit.
And I think it's interesting to note, like you said, the toolbar at the top, you can see it's in debug mode now, so I'm actually running this in debug
That's
mode.
right. So as Doug starts to drill in, we're looking for something that, we're looking for an exception of some kind. So we start to drill through the functions and diagnostic events. We drill through
Red X.
What's that?
I got a red X.
Right. So we're getting close. So let's double click on it again, Doug. Okay, boom, exception. Okay? Here's an exception that says, hey, we've got an index out of range problem. Now, you'll remember that the application was still running. So although we threw an exception, we swallowed it somewhere and got rid of that exception and didn't handle it appropriately. Has anyone ever written code like that? I doubt it, right? Okay. Yeah. Not me.
I haven't. I'm in marketing.
All right. So nice. So once we've got at RTM right now, you'll be able to double click on that exception. It'll take you right to the code that caused that. Okay. Right now in the CTP bits, if I did that, I think we'll take the S out, but keep that between us. However, you do see enough information to take me to that particular area in code. So specifically, dinnernow.services.paymentservice.calculate_discounted_price is where the bug is. Okay? So let's pause a second here. No more, no repos is what we're shooting for here. Go ahead. That's fine. No more, I don't know, it works on my box, you're doing something wrong, right? We're trying to just get rid of that whole situation. Okay. Now we need to go fix it. And this is where we get into some other new features that I want to talk to you about. Let's go back in there, Doug. All right. Here we are in that code that threw that exception. And it was an array bounds right problem. So you see that in discount rates, we're indexing into that array, and we're probably going over by 1. And sure enough, in the for loop expression, I've got a less than equals to the count size. So I'm going to step right over that index, and I'm going to throw an exception right there. So the bug to fix is remove the equal sign, Doug.
All right.
Okay? Very simple problem. And Doug, if you can scroll up. Remember I mentioned how we swallowed the exception? And you'll notice here, there's a try block and then a catch.
To do.
With the to do.
I'm gonna do that at 12:30.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm going to come back to that one, right? All right, you can go back to that. Go back to that bug there. Okay, he's saving the. Let's save it.
Yep.
And now at this point, we want to do things correctly. We need to run some unit tests, right? Everyone's running unit tests these days. Am I wrong? Everyone running unit tests? Everyone? Oh, that was weak. We got to be writing unit tests, folks. All right.
There'll be a panel discussion for the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So you've got a unit test or many unit tests that you need to run. In this particular project, we've got loads of unit tests that we need to run. I want to show you a new capability in 2010 that's called test impact analysis. And Doug, if you can go to Test, Windows, Test Impact View. What this is showing you is a list of the methods that you have manipulated, you've changed in some way, and when you select that method, go ahead, Doug, it shows you what tests specifically have been impacted based on the change in those particular methods. Does that make sense? So you made a change in this particular method. You've got unit tests that cover that method in regards to how that test executes. And this list shows you the first tests that you need to run. You should run all of them, but if you're going to pick one, run this one first. Right? Okay, great. So let's run that test.
Being in marketing, I actually only wrote one unit test.
You didn't write one unit test. Let's show them all the tests. So we got one out of lots.
Ah, there we go.
Okay. So
It wasn't
Doug.
fake, sorry.
Yeah, right.
All right, I'll run it.
All right, so now we're going to just run that one unit test. This is where it's just going to do the typical thing that Visual Studio will do. It will automatically build our solution and start to execute that test. You should see the test results view pop up. There it goes. And you'll start to see that one test start to execute. And if Doug did his job right, it should pass. But he works in marketing, you never know. So this is going to go, there it goes. Well done, Doug.
Thank you. I practiced.
At this point, you've made your change. You verified your change passed by running some unit tests. And now we're going to check in. So Doug, go ahead and right-click on that source and go and check in. At this point, you're going to see, as Doug types in, the fix comment, he's going to associate this with a work item. He's going to associate that with that bug that we talked about earlier. And he's going to check in. You're going to see a new dialog that pops up here. This is called gated check-ins, this new feature. How many folks, through sound of applause, have ever broken the build? Okay. If you are not clapping, the door is right over there. Okay. So this is a situation where our continuous builds investment in 2008. Folks using continuous build? Great. We've continued our investment in continuous build. And this is an extension of that. And what this is basically another way to protect yourself from hurting your fellow teammates. So basically what this is I'm going to take my shelf set and I'm going to check in, but I'm actually not going to commit that change set into my main repository until we've verified and validated that that change set, coupled with a get latest on another environment, actually works and builds and does the right thing. Okay? So Doug's going to say, I'm going to say continue there, Doug. And that will take that change set and it will queue it into onto the build server. Now, the build server could be your main build server. It could be a box sitting next to you. It could be really anywhere. But bottom line is an environment that isn't your own, so we can get away again from the, hey, look, works on my box situation. Okay? What you'll see is as this build is queued, you'll actually see some toast pop up on the right-hand side here shortly if things go well. That tells you, yep, the build that was queued has started, which essentially means I've taken that change set, I've moved it over to this other machine, we've done a full get latest, and we've started that build. And you'll see that here shortly. Let me pop back out. Pop back out. So what's all this mean together? No more broken builds. No more broken builds. This is a feature that says we're going to let you hurt yourself, but not the rest of the team, right? That's what this is all about. Okay. But here's a new situation where we've now written the code, our code is clean, we've written a bunch of unit tests, those unit tests have passed, and still things can atrophy. It's kind of called code rot, or it's basically, through all best intentions, your code starts to disintegrate somehow. The maintenance issues around your code start to raise their ugly head as that code gets older and older. I want to talk about that next. You want to pop back over there, Doug?
Sure.
Okay. When we come back and we double-click on the build log here, you're actually going to see that we failed. The build failed. So it's like, what's going on? My unit test passed. Everything should be fine. And this is another new feature in 2010 that I want to explain to you right now. Basically, this is something we call architecture validation. And we've put it as part of the build process. And I'm going to really talk about the details of what this looks like right now. Basically, what this is we've got an error that says, if you want to select that first error there, Doug. It says, dependency validation error. The class, dinner now services, payment service in layer. I'm overemphasizing a couple words here because it'll take us into the next step here. The class, blah, in layer internal service helpers calls class dinnernow.data.price in layer DAO. Okay? So we're talking about layers. We're talking about classes in those layers calling other classes in some other layers. And we're being told, the build process is telling us, not good. Right? It's an error. Let's go drill into what's going on there. And again, the main point to take away here is that this is part of the build process. We're checking this every time. Now let's go talk about how we actually set up this constraint. Doug, if you can go to Solution Explorer and double-click on dinnernow.layer, you're going to see a new graph in 2010 called the layer diagram. And what this diagram is think of this as a way to describe what you believe your architecture is. What you believe your architecture should be. Okay? And allow you to draw the dependencies or lack of dependencies between these layers, and then be able to associate your source artifacts with each of these individual layers so that at build time we can actually go analyze that and look for the dependencies as you've described them. So let me get back to that error. If you scroll down a little bit, Doug.
Sorry. I thought you wanted to go back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm a little mouse happy.
That's all right. So notice here on the right, the internal service helpers layer. That was the layer that was referenced in the error that we just showed you. It's basically saying that something in there, a class in that layer, was calling some other class in a layer that it shouldn't be. Specifically on the far left there, the DAO layer. Now if you'll notice, between core business services and internal service helpers, there's two links. One going from the internal service helpers and one going to it. That's basically saying anything in these two layers, they should only talk to those two layers. So internal service helpers should only ever call core business services. That's it. The lack of links between layers is significant. So what you don't see is a layer between internal service helpers and DAO. And yet, we've discovered that you actually have code that's calling from something in internal service helpers to DAO. And that's the thing that caused the validation error. Okay?
Do you want me just to add a link?
No, don't add a link. Thanks for asking, though. All right. So from the error, if you want to pop back to that error, Doug. From that error, we can actually go in the error right next, one down, if you want to click on that, Doug. This actually tells us more specifically the method dinnernow.services.paymentservice.get customer discount information is calling another method in the other layer, okay? So let's go jump into that code.
Sure.
So it tells us exactly where that particular method, where the validation error is occurring. And sure enough, you'll see here in the payment service class, which is in dinnernow.services, is calling directly to dinnernow.data.price.get discounted rates for customers. So we've broken an architectural constraint. Code looks fine. Looks good. But yet here's another layer another mechanism that we want to be able to lean on to help keep our code that much more clean, keep the architecture clean. But at this point, developer comes in here and says, all right, well, now I need to get my head around what's really going on in the system. I really want to reach and look at the dependencies from afar and see what this really looks like. And so in 2010, we've got another new capability for you. It's called the Architecture Explorer. Doug, if you can bring up the Architecture Explorer. I'm not drinking your water.
I'm good.
Doug's got the Architecture Explorer up, and he's going to click on Visualize Code Relationships, Visualize Call Dependency by Namespace. He's going to select this. We're going to grovel through your entire solution. We're going to analyze the call dependencies between your namespaces, and we're going to render a graph. What you see on this graph, and by the way, remember, you can interrupt me at any moment with applause. What you see here is a bunch of boxes that represent your namespaces, and you'll notice links between those namespaces. And you'll also notice that some of these links are real thick, and some are thin. And that the thickness is showing you that you've got a very deep dependency or lots of dependencies between these namespaces. And a thin one says you've got just a few, maybe one. Doug, if you can, and you can play with this graph, you can manipulate it, etc. I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's click on the tree. I basically want to see a top-down view of this. And you'll remember in that error that we had dinnernow.services, something in that layer, was calling something in dinnernow.data. And sure enough, as Doug selects the dinnernow.services namespace, you see a big thick line going down to dinnernow.data. According to the layer diagram, that is invalid. Shouldn't be there. So we now need to go and explore why this is there. Now this is a little contrived. We already got to the code. You could fix the code. But still, this is another way of getting into your code, another way of getting a different perspective on where things could go awry. So Doug, if you could expand the chevron on DinnerNow services, I want to drill in to this namespace. I want to see the various classes, et cetera, that are in this namespace. An interesting thing will start to happen when you start to click, and don't click yet, Doug.
Okay.
When you start to click on the individual classes in this namespace. Because again, we're looking for a particular, where's the dependencies, where are these being realized, down to the class. Doug, if you go click on Payment Service class now, you'll notice a new link pops up. And if you hover over that link, Doug, you'll see a tooltip that shows. And you'll see the source node Payment Service calls a target node called Price. And if you click on the little arrow there, we'll jump the diagram over to show you where that other class resides in the dinnernow.data namespace. Fabulous. Thank you for that. So at this point, I can now double-click on Payment Service and take me right back into the code where I was jumping from that layer diagram. You want to pop back out?
Yeah.
So this gets us into this. I think I jumped a little bit ahead here, which is fine. But this is all part of what we call the butterfly effect. And I wonder if any of you folks have experienced something similar, and by the way, this is not a reference to an Ashton Kutcher film. This is the phenomenon that happens when you make a change in one area of your code, and something unforeseen happens somewhere else. Has anyone experienced the butterfly effect? The idea here is, we call it the butterfly effect because you got the butterfly flapping over here, and then way over here, there's a hurricane erupts, and the freaking back axle of your truck falls off, and there's things, it's not good. So this is another scenario we got a lot of feedback on that we wanted to try to mitigate. The layer diagram is another piece, another tool in your arsenal that you can reach for to help mitigate this. But I actually want to show you one more, actually.
Yeah.
Doug, can I drive?
Taking the mouse.
I want to show you another way to get your head around the potential change or the potential risk in making a change without understanding, where that code and how it relates to other areas of your code. So what I want to do is, I actually want to go into the code and I want to start as high up in the UI as I possibly can. So what I want to do is right at the layer, the UI layer, I want to get an understanding of what the call sequence looks like, but I want to see this visually. And I want to get my head around, the details of what this looks like. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go into Solution Explorer, and I'm going to bring up the menu search service, which is I know is right under the UI. And what I want to do here is I want to click on Get Menu Items for Menu. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say Generate Sequence Diagram.
Yeah, dialog box.
It hasn't worked yet. So what you see here is a dialog box that pops up and will allow you to control the information that's coming back. Because you can imagine, if I'm way up in the stack and I want to drill all the way down into the system, that could be a monster graph that in itself would just be useless. So you want to give you the ability to control what comes back. So I'm going to go actually 4 calls deep. I'm just going to keep it on the current project. And you notice down here that I can further filter this capability by including namespaces for things that I'm not interested in. Like, for instance, if I don't care about anything in system.data, don't render that on the graph. Okay. We'll say OK. It's not a demo until something breaks. So let me try one more time.
Just to remember, you said this was actually the CTP bits, right?
This is CTP bits. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, just checking.
No, this should be fine. All right. Hang on, everyone. Hang on. Let Doug do it. Who said that?
Obviously, they know who's in management and who's not.
All right. Here. One of these guys worked. There we go. All right. So what we've done is we've looked at your source code. We've jumped from that particular method we started there. I right-click and said Generate Sequence Diagram, and we generated a UML 2.1.1 sequence diagram that shows you various constructs in your application, and shows you, for instance, loop. You've got a loop situation here. We've got particular methods. You'll notice this is where I limited the call graph that's coming back. So basically, I tried to click 4, but I think on this one I only had 3, and so it's not going to go dig any farther, and it's showing you those with those little black dots, the messages to the black dots. It's limiting that. So now at this point, I can kind of jump right back to, if I scroll up just a bit, you'll see that payment service class is represented here. If I scroll over a bit, I'm going to actually go drill back down into this code. So what I can do is I can right-click on this particular link, go to Show Code, and it takes me right to the code. You want to pop me over?
Yeah.
Excellent. So all these things together, and I know I've just gone over quite a bit. I've shown you the layer diagram, so you can actually incorporate architectural validation. I should also mention to some of you folks who are frightened of these modeling things, is that you don't have to use this, by the way. So we're not forcing it on you. We're just saying it's probably a good idea. The layer diagram, get that part of your build process. We showed you the Architecture Explorer, which allows you to get in there and explore your system. And I just barely touched on it, really. There's so much more there. But a way to visualize your system from a code-up kind of perspective. And then we showed you that last bit, which is the generate me a sequence diagram that I can see more details of how my code is interacting with the rest. All this together comes down to trying to say, no more butterfly effect. That's what we're trying to get done here, is minimize that butterfly wings flapping over here, hurricane over there. Great. Thank you. But we're not done. We've got one more tool to put in your tool chest here that I want to show you. And this is basically gets to the point where you're saying, all right, we've got refactoring tools in Visual Studio. We've got unit testing. We now have layer and gated check-ins, layer diagrams and architectural validation, gated check-ins, etc. All these things to try to make sure that your code is of quality before it hits your main repository. We've got one more weapon for you, which is the ability to allow you to create even more regression tests that drive the UI. So make UI validation a first-class citizen with the rest of your suite of unit tests. And I want to show you what that looks like now. Doug, you want to jump in there?
I'm there.
Okay. What Doug's going to do now is he's going to right-click on dinnernow.tests, and he's going to go to Add, and he's going to select Coded UI Test. This is new in 2010. It does not exist anywhere else except those CTP bits that you're going to get here tomorrow at 1 o'clock. What you see is a dialog that pops up and basically asks us a couple questions. What we want to do is we want to select the first one, the launch the recorder to generate code. And what you're going to see is a recorder, a UI recorder pop up. And the idea here is it's going to record our gestures. Now, I'm sure you folks have seen or have used recording mechanisms like this before. So what's different about this one? The main difference in this one is that the code that is generated is going to be the code that you like to develop in, so C#, VB, etc. And it's going to put it in an environment that you're already comfortable in, Visual Studio. And it's going to allow you to execute those tests, those UI tests, in a framework you're already very well familiar with, the unit testing framework in Visual Studio. So let's get into it. Doug's going to click on the record button. And he's going to just type in a couple things here. 101 in your zip code. He's going to make sure that he's got, this is a dinner meal. And within an hour. Now, if you'll notice, as Doug's going here, the recorder has kind of faded out. As Doug moves his mouse over that, it'll kind of pop back in. So we got a little alpha thing going on there.
That's cool.
Easy, Doug. You'll notice in the recorder, it's telling you exactly what it has captured. So it's got, the type that basically saying you just typed blah, and you've typed another blah. You've selected a few things. That's being captured in the recorder. Go ahead and click the find button there, Doug. We're going to record a couple more steps here. So we're going to click on find, and then go ahead and click on Northwind Bar and Grill.
Wouldn't be a demo without Northwind.
Okay. And you'll notice, if you look through the haze that is the recorder there, that the bug has been fixed here, by the way. At this point now, let's generate some code.
All right. I'm ready.
So click the Generate Code button. There we go. And we got to give the method a name of where all this generated code is going to go. Let's call it find restaurant. And hit OK there, Doug.
Thanks.
OK, back in Visual Studio, a number of new files are generated, and I'll drill into this in just a second, but I wanted to point out the test method. And if you scroll up just a little bit more there, Doug, we've got, you'll notice, a coded UI test attribute on the coded UI test. This is built on the current unit testing framework. And you'll notice test method is just the same attribute that you would normally see in a test like this. And you'll notice that inside the coded UI test method 1 is recorded methods dot find restaurant. The find restaurant was the name that we just gave it. And that is where all the code, all the nasty goo that we are generating to go and walk your UI. That's where that code is. Okay, but you can notice that this particular test is not doing anything other than navigating your code. What we need are some assertions. So we need to validate that the UI, even though I've navigated it appropriately, that what is on that UI, we validate and verify is correct. And so the state of the application is where we need it to be. So Doug, if you pop back over and hit Add Validation, a few more files are jammed in there. If you minimize, perfect. Now what Doug's going to do now is he's going to click on the little crosshairs, and he's going to drag that out onto the web application here. And you'll notice all the controls in the web app are highlighting as he does so. We're going to select the $27 box there, let go, and we're going to click Add. Okay? At this point, let's click Done. So we've basically told the system, here's how you find the control. I'm interested in this particular control in the web form. Now, I want to validate and verify a particular field or some characteristic, some property on that control. And this is where we're going to scroll down a little bit, Doug. Look for inner text. There you go. So we're going to validate based on the inner text property on this DOM element. And we're going to use a comparator as r equals. So we want to basically say, we want to validate that this particular DOM element has an inner text property of $27. So that when we run this automated UI test, we know that it actually passed. Go ahead and generate code. There, Doug.
This is the most code I've written in a day in a while.
Yeah, that's good. So we jump back to VS, and you'll notice we've got a, oh, go ahead and click Finish. We're done there. And once you take the back to our home, you can kill the recorder as well. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. If we go back into VS, you'll notice now that we have an assertion jammed into that test method. And that assertion is basically saying, hey, we should have a control that has an inner text property of $27. Okay? So the top method, that recorded methods.find restaurant, that's where the UI groveling code occurs. Why don't we drill into that for a second?
Sure.
Go ahead, hit F12 on top of that thing. Or do that.
I'm a menu kind of guy.
Yeah. And you'll notice here's where all that code that is being generated that actually goes and finds all the controls and understands how to manipulate your UI. That's where this code is. Hopefully you don't have to mess with this, but it's there if you want to. Okay?
Man, I wrote a lot of code.
Yeah, that's good, Doug.
Can I put this on my review?
So, close that. All right. At this point, you can execute this test just like you would execute any other normal unit test. You can right-click and say Run Tests. We'll do the same thing that you saw happen earlier, where we'll build the project. And then you'll see the test results window pop up. A pending test will start to run. And then keep your eyes open, because this is going to go fairly quickly. Once this thing kicks in, you're going to see that web app pop up, and you're going to see a whole lot of fast typing. It's working great. Now, we're going to hit the find. Excellent. Now we should do this assertion, and we passed. Want to pop back out?
Yeah.
So what this is about is no more regressions. Yet another tool to get you away from the, hey, works on my box, to architectural validation problem, to UI regression test capabilities, all this to protect yourself just that much better. Now, folks, Team System 2010 equals happiness. It equals happiness because for you, the developer, you're happy when what was hard is now easy, when you're more productive, when your code is maintainable, and when your team is effective each and every day. That is what Team System is all about. That is what Team System is here to do. And that's where we want to continue to push on this product. It's your happiness keeps me up at night, I'm telling you.
I'm just happy the demo worked.
Yeah, exactly. Good job, Doug. Is this where I need to drive from? Where am I?
Right there.
Okay. But folks, as I was telling you, Visual Studio Team System, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Visual Studio Team System 2010 is a very big product. The good news about this is that we've got 12 breakout sessions over the next 4 days. That's good. The bad news about this is that 3 pairs of those talks are all happening at the same time. Now, the good news about that is that the sessions will be recorded. And if you bug enough of these folks, Microsoft folks, I'm sure we'll have some repeat sessions. Now, I'm sure if you brought a friend with you, you can also split up and cover more ground. So, what Team System sessions are scheduled and when? Let me break it down for you. Today, 4 sessions. 3:30 to 4:45, Brian Harry is going to give a talk on Team Foundation Server. And if you go to that one, ask Brian about his farm and how he keeps his cows smelling so good. Or, and this is where your friend comes in, Habib Hadarian and Justin Marks are going to give a talk on software diagnostics and quality. And don't worry, I will be showing this list of sessions at the end of my talk. Now today, 5:15 to 6:30, Lori Lampkin and Sundar Raman are going to have a talk on Agile and specifically new features in Visual Studio around that. Or catch Gert Draper's Mr. Data Dude talk about the product that brought me to Microsoft 3.5 years ago. Where's the sun? Tuesday. That was actually my wife talking. Tuesday, 12:45 to 1:30, John Cunningham is going to dispel the magic around the debugger in his tips and tricks talk. And Wednesday, 12 to 12:45, Ram Sharala is going to introduce you to the newest SKU in the Team System family, Team Lab Management. Now, virtualization is king in this product, but it is still the integration with Team System where the magic is seen. Now, at the same time that Ram is doing his thing, Ewan Garden, Peter Provost, Jim Newkirk, and Nikolai Tillman are going to give a talk on the future of unit testing. And while those guys are doing their talk, and this is where you're going to need another friend because we've got 3 things going on at the same time. I couldn't help myself. Rav's Carr is going to demonstrate how to increase code quality via code analysis. And at 1:15 to 2:30, Steve Carroll and Ed Glass are going to give a talk on the details of how to improve .NET app performance and scalability. And if you go to that talk, be sure to remind Ed that I can run faster than he can. 4:45 to 6, Peter Provost is giving a talk on modeling with Architecture Edition and specifically how to do that without falling into the dreaded BDUF. And finally, Thursday at 8:30 to 9:45, Stephanie Saad is going to talk about how Microsoft uses Team Foundation Server internally. Or you can catch Mark Barnett and Nikolai Tillman talk about some cool Microsoft research technologies, specifically around automated test generation, codenamed PEX, and some technologies around contract checking. With that, here's that list of everything I just went through. And we also have these little pamphlets, or these little, what do you call those things? Card, thank you. And as well, there's some hands-on labs that we've got going on here that you should check out. Again, these CTP bits are in the hands-on lab. You will get these on your hard drive tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And with that, questions and answers. Thanks a lot for coming, folks.
If you have questions, we have some microphones set up. We ask that you go to the microphone to ask the questions because we are recording these.
Hello.
So. Who said hello?
Hello.
Wow.
Over here.
All right, over there, red shirt.
Oh, there you are.
The UI testing, that's web only, right? It's not...
Oh,
No. That's a great question. So no, that is web, and we will also have WinForm capabilities as well. And at Release RTM, we're going to have a beta of a WPF capability as well.
Smart client?
Say again?
Smart client?
Smart client.
Yeah, WPF smart client?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, I was wondering...
Who's
Sorry, right here, over here.
There you go.
Sorry, yeah.
Gotcha.
If we have legacy tests written in NUnit or other test frameworks, will 2010 support those? Can we bring them into 2010?
Yeah, we have the same story that we have today, actually. If you're using NUnit, we can bring them into MS test capabilities as well, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Question over here.
Over left,
Gotcha.
right.
What about Silverlight? Will they be Silverlight aware for the UI testing?
Is Ewan in the room? I don't think we're going to be...
We're not planning Silverlight support for Code UI testing now.
Okay.
Right now, it's web through IE, and at RTM we'll have Firefox beta level support, and then the WPF, but not Silverlight.
Thanks.
Question here.
Go ahead.
How much of this will work with native code? Unmanaged C++.
What part?
The test impact analysis, gated check-in, architecture validation, the architecture explorer, like all the things we went through.
Right.
How much of that will work with
Native code.
Native code?
You know what? You know what we should do is take this offline. I want to talk. We've got guys who are much smarter than I am in the VSTS lounge, and we can talk to you about that.
Okay,
Specifics about that.
All right, right here in the middle.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Yep. The no repro feature.
Yes.
So can I embed that with my release bits? So somehow, so I can get that kind of error reporting back into TFS.
Okay. So what I didn't go in at all and talking about the infrastructure that actually makes that happen. Remember I showed you that video with that manual test runner?
Right.
What was actually the magic behind that is that we have these agent controllers, these controllers out there that are gathering all the rich information at the same time that your testers are running. So, you know, the history log, the video background, all that stuff is automatically collected when you're running. Are you asking a different question? Are you asking, can you ship that to your end users, like your customers?
Yeah,
and gather that
I want to
information?
embed like the diagnostics tools into my release builds to the end users. So maybe not all the video, but maybe like a screenshot or something like that when an exception happens, or like the customer experience stuff inside of the Microsoft products.
Let me pull Kameno up just so you talk to the Kameno thing real quick.
Yeah, I see the channel 9 on this. But.
Okay. Yeah, no, you know, at this point in V1, we're not thinking about that. Although, I mean, we've thought about that, but we aren't going to have anything for you directly, as far as I know. Talk to the guys in the VSTS lounge again. Ewan Garden is a good person to talk to about that particular thing, but I don't think in V1 we're going to have something for you.
All right, thanks.
Question on your right.
Thank you.
My question is around the architecture constraints in the build.
Yeah.
Well, at the risk of offending any architecture purists, will there be the ability to make those either both error or warnings?
Yeah, and if you don't want to use it at all, you don't have to put that into the build process. So part of the new features in 2010 around build automation is we've incorporated Windows workflow into the process. And what you saw there was we've incorporated this new action for architectural validation into the general flow. And so, you know, if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. And you can say, hey, this should be a warning versus an error, so that you do, you know, maintain some visibility into those issues.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Question over here.
Gotcha.
It's about your architecture explorer.
Yeah.
Great job on that. But
Are you familiar with end-to-pen, which has a lot of functionality that you guys showed here and more?
Yeah.
Are you guys using that under the hood, or is this all your new
No,
code?
this is all ours.
Okay. Any plans to integrate with end-to-pen, or going your own route?
So we've talked with Patrick. We've had lots of conversations. He's an MVP for Microsoft. But at this point, no. It's all our own stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Hello. The question is, what the announcements are in the source control related to the branching and merging?
Yeah. I highly recommend you catch Brian Harry's talk at 3:30 today. He's going to go drill into all the new features, but there's lots of good stuff like branch visualization, so you can kind of see what your branch architecture looks like and be able to drag and drop change sets between branches visually. He's going to show a lot of that.
Okay, one more question. How did you get from this chair in 2001 to the podium there?
That's a longer conversation. Thanks.
On your right.
Thank you.
My question is, will any of these features be in Visual Studio Professional, or will it be a Team Edition version only?
Everything I showed you here is team system.
What you saw was sort of some things spread across the different team editions. So these aren't features of VS Pro, but there are different team editions. So we did the Team Suite view.
Thank you.
Yeah. Real quick to actually comment on that. Some of the features are TFS based. So if you have VS Pro with a Cal talking to TFS, you'll get some of those capabilities like the build support and things like that.
Well, I mean, that was sort of my question too, is I can sort of guess which features are probably in which edition to some degree, but I found that a lot of my senior developers need everything, and boy, it's really, 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 really expensive to get all the editions.
We pay Cameron a lot.
Huh?
We pay Cameron a lot. So we have to.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's worth it, but we may have to drop use of things that we'd really like to do because we can't afford it.
Yep.
And you know, there's a lot of value add beyond the compiler.
Sure.
Yep.
And I just want you guys to bear that in mind, because those sort of marketing decisions have an impact on the value, on the quality of what you build.
Yep.
Okay.
Good feedback.
And actually, let me address that a little bit. There's a couple things that are happening as we lead up to the 2010 release, and hopefully one of them you've heard about, and if you haven't, I'll tell you, which is in the 2010 release, we're actually going to merge the Development Edition and Database Edition together into a single product called the Development Edition, but the functionality of both plus all the new functionality will be there. So what we've done is if you have either the Development Edition or the Database Edition today with an MSDN subscription, you can now download the other edition as well. So you get both of those. And we're trying to collapse that value. Again, provide more value. That was my idea. We're trying to put the value together and make sure that there's enough value in each of the editions that it's worth the cost. Now, the senior developers that are using Team Suite, yes, it's a fairly expensive feature set. Comparative to tools you could use in the industry out there, we're actually pretty affordable in comparison to that. But I totally appreciate the situation that it is fairly expensive. We have an ALM assessment tool you can sort of use to figure out when you need a particular edition versus when you need the suite, and kind of help to fine tune those things. But we're definitely looking for ways that we can make sure we're getting the value to you at a price that's affordable but still appropriate. So. The DevDB merge was one of those things we did to hopefully help out.
Hi there. 2 quick yes or no's. Does the manual test runner work with other browsers?
Yes.
Yes.
And secondly, can you run those recorded UI tests in non-interactive mode so you don't have to sit there looking at the screen and watching everything happen?
You can go get coffee.
So it'll always show you every step of the way?
I believe that's true. You and yes? Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Variation on the earlier comment, do the testing tools you showed today, are they available in 2010 Developer Edition, or do they require Testing Edition?
Which testing tools are you referring to? Like the Coda UI test?
Yes.
Coda UI test is part of the Test Edition in 2010. Let's see, what else did we show? Test Impact Analysis will be in the Developer Edition. The Camino UI that we pulled up briefly is, we're looking at how that's going to come out. It'll definitely be part of the Test Edition, at the very least. So some of this stuff we're still at CTP stage. We're not at RTM yet. So some of these decisions are subject to change.
Thanks.
Yeah.
My question is about analysis of the architecture of solutions, and what about WPF data binding and callers that are not C# code or something like that, but XAML?
Yes, yes. So your question is a great one, and it really calls out some of the significant investments that we've made in the Architecture Explorer, the mechanism that we pull in that data source and we pull in and analyze. It's a provider model. So if there's some model that's out there that we don't understand, like for instance, let's say if you're using TeamPrise to do Java development, you want to understand how that looks, you can actually write a provider and suck that into the system.
For the interactive, like the user interface test you showed us where you recorded screen interactions,
yeah,
is it possible to run several of those to produce a stress, maybe a memory leak that only shows up if I hit the screen 100 times?
So we actually have a different tool for that currently today, which is our web test and load testing frameworks that you would use for that purpose.
That's right.
For doing stress testing.
Okay.
The coded UI tests you saw today are more about regression testing. And then the web and load test capabilities we have today are about stress testing.
Same code that's generated, or is it different altogether?
It's different.
Okay.
Okay, on your right here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Going back to the first thing that you guys showed of the in the test runner, the recording feature looks definitely pretty useful. Seems most useful when you're down at the code level. So I'm curious. You actually showed a web application running. If I have my web server running, my application server running on another system, I'm going to be doing the client recording, the video recording on the browser, and then the actual debug history trace on the server, I guess. So that is one question. How does that work? And then the second question is, you showed the debug history trace where you could actually jump in and look at the stack trace and so on.
Yeah.
How granular is that? Can I drag in, can I look at any point in time of the application execution, or is that just when an event like an exception occurs, or?
No, it's gathering all of the application information that's running. So you'll actually see events in there that shows you, a file's being accessed or created. You see very rich information through there. If you want to drill into this, you're going to need to talk with, like John Cunningham can really drill in on the details on this. You can catch him in the lounge. I'm fuzzy on the details of how all this works. Now, to your question about the server and the data collector part, that's just a matter of where do you set up that data collector.
Okay. And the overhead on that?
I'm sorry?
Overhead?
We're still early in checking this out, so I don't have any numbers off the top of my head in terms of what the impact on that, but we're working hard to make sure it's minimal.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Habib, yes. Today. It is happening today.
It is I heard a 3:30 something.
3:30 today in room 515 is going to drill into the details of what is in that log.
It's called Microsoft Visual Studio Team System Software Diagnostics and Quality, and it's Habib in room 515 at 3:30 today.
Go ahead.
Question here. My question is about .NET Compact framework compatibility or testing Windows mobile devices. Is there any plans for this in the future?
What part?
Specifically, the no repro thing, the video reproduction, this kind of thing, because I see a great value on this kind of thing. Because if it is hard to reproduce a bug on desktop and web applications, it's even harder to reproduce on Windows mobile devices typically.
So you're talking about, how can you test the emulator essentially?
Exactly.
Yeah. And you'll be able to absolutely run the manual test runner and capture, again, the video, et cetera, that's being run. So you'll actually, you'll see exactly what's going on.
Okay.
Ask Habib about the data, this application state, the logging infrastructure.
Okay.
I don't know, I don't believe that we've got anything in CE specifically, but you absolutely can capture all the video, you can take screenshots of your emulator, et cetera, and attach that to the bug.
But how about the device info, for example, the machine state, because it's not typically reproducible in an emulator.
Right. That I'm not sure about. That is a good question for Habib.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So the UI testing tool, does it recognize third-party controls like DevExpress or Infrajustics, just to check the state or any variables?
Yeah, we've been working with a lot of our partners on this one. That's a question again for Ewan Garden. Is Ewan still in the room?
Waving his hand back there.
Yeah, go talk to that gentleman waving his hand, and he can give you the details.
Okay, Cameron, in this MVP summit, so you said about the modeling viewer without team system. Is there any progressing on it?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Modeling viewer without team system.
Modeling with team system?
Yes. You said about it on this year's MVP summit.
Model viewer.
The modeling viewer, yes. So you will have the ability to see read-only, inside Visual Studio. That viewer part that I mentioned, I'm not sure we're going to make that for RTM. But you absolutely will be able to see read-only diagrams inside Visual Studio if you don't have the architecture product.
Not inside the team system, Visual Studio. Independent will be provided in independent program?
In VS Pro.
In VS Pro? No, let's see. No, that won't work in VS Pro. You'll need a team system box somewhere in there. It doesn't have to be the architecture edition, it could be any of them, and you'll be able to see read-only views.
Okay, thank you.
For the designer models, one of the things we've had to struggle with is just periodically looking at the models, graphical models, and how they've changed by the actions the developer have taken. It's not always very clear to be able to go in and see, this was the version we approved basically 3 months ago, and now developers have changed it. You'll see it, but without having like compare side to side. Is there any plans to address that?
Yes, we absolutely do. I don't think it's going to make RTM, but we are starting on that work now. So what we're trying to do is say, at RTM have like a beta version of something like this, but this merge and even diffing mechanism and comparing is something that we're looking into right now.
Thank you.
Yep.
We have, I see there's like 2 more guys. We really only have time for 2 more. We're supposed to get out of here. So.
Yeah, question here. The reverse engineering into sequence diagrams, is that integrated with the class designer? Is a lifeline associated with the class?
Yeah, you can absolutely represent that. You can say, hey, represent this on the class designer. That's fully integrated.
And that's all UML 2.x?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, I'm going to be representing your session at MDC in Orlando. Can we chat about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
For royalty.
All right, thanks, folks.
Thanks, everybody.